Hello there, Sarah from 17 once again. This is my late E3 coverage, and this is the Ubisoft press conference. The French Canadians themselves have invaded, and with them they've brought the gifts of incredibly underwhelming video games. They opened their conference with everybody's favourite, the staple of the series, the staple of the show, Just Dance 2019. That is, of course, the sequel to Just Dance 2018, and nobody knows more about Just Dance than I do. So, Beyond Good and Evil 2, it started with, they wanted to tell us gameplay, but it showed a little teeny bit of combat at the start, and it looked interesting, it looked character actiony, it looked potential, and then they were flying between some stuff, and everybody got excited because it showed the protagonist from the Beyond Good and Evil at the end of this reveal, and apparently she's going to be a bad guy and there's all this other stuff, and then they left the stage and they actually had their mics still on, so they're like, "We nailed it, woo!" Which is pretty funny. But I didn't play the original Beyond Good and Evil because I didn't like the aesthetic. I thought it looked dumb, and I heard great things, but I just never played it, so this is not something I can get really excited for, but I think it looks really cool, and I'm hoping to experience it and see what the grand phenomenon is. And as you can tell from me jumping straight into Ubisoft's games portfolio rather than talking about their conference is exactly what it is all the time. It's just the same thing every year. It's a bunch of stuff you might care about and a bunch of stuff I don't care about. So there's no real point in kind of going over with a slight overview of what they did, because it's almost so, like, there's almost nothing to say. There really isn't. There's nothing to fill the air. It's just silence. I will say one thing, though, before continuing on. I thought that the presenter lady was good. I was not a big fan of Aisha Taylor. I think she's a good actor, but I wasn't really all that interested in her kind of zany MDMA off her tits, constantly, ferociously, almost aggressively delivering things in her own witty way. I don't think she was ever bad, it just was against my personal tastes of how you present a press conference. And I thought that the new girl was fine. She did exactly what's needed to be done, and I enjoyed that. And everything else was altogether unoffensive. But a dude came out on wearing like an Evel Knievel suit on a motorcycle and got off his motorcycle and then fell and demolished a podium as to kind of, you know, defy expectations as he walked up to it. And then when he stood up, he was talking about the best thing about Trials is falling off or something, and he revealed Trials Rising, which is, of course, those puzzle physics-based games where you're on a motorcycle and you have to do all kinds of crazy assault courses. And Trials is always fun. It's always a really good time, so more Trials is always a good thing, and if you like that, you have a new one coming, so that was advertised in a really irreverent way, which I appreciated. And then they moved on to The Division 2. So I didn't play The Division 1, but I thought it looked really, really cool, and then I didn't play it. And I'm glad I didn't play it, because I now think it looks really garbage. And similarly, I think Division 2 looks like more garbage. So, if you work for the council, and you have one of those big lorries, and you like throwing wheelie bins on your back, then it might be for you. But it just looks like everything else, doesn't it? You have a backpack on, you go around shooting shit with your friends, and you shoot stuff far too much, because everybody takes 40 bullets to the face, and then when they die, a rainbow of wonderful treats drop out of them, and you go over to it and peruse and pick it up and fight with your friends, and then you repeat it ad nauseum until you shoot yourself in the face from depression. And it's fine if you like that, but I don't need that in my life. I've done that numerous times, and if I'm going to do something that's that loot driven, I'm going to do something in a game that I like, and that ain't The Division. So if you're a Division fan, they're going to give you all the new things you want in. There's going to be raids, I think they mentioned. There's going to be, like, it's set in a different place. There's probably no new guns. You know, there's wonderful, awkward dialogue of people pretending to be friends over mics. It's got all the shit you come to expect from Ubisoft, and I'm sure you'll have a good time. But I'll be over here not really caring. And then they showed Mario plus Rabbids, which is kind of funny, right? The modern military cooperative shooter in a dystopian, fucked up future doesn't appeal to me, yet Mario and Rabbids does. What world are we in, right? So this is going to be, I couldn't tell if it was a new game or a DLC content, but it's essentially a Donkey Kong inspired and focused iteration of the Mario and Rabbids franchise, and from what I've seen of these games, I think they look superb. It's strategy, it's cute, it's Mario, it's Nintendo. How can you hate it? Even a black-hearted bastard like myself can't find myself to spit bile at this. It's just too damn good looking, and kudos for Ubisoft for trying to build bridges with Nintendo of all people, right? Because when you think about it, Nintendo have always kind of been an island doing their own thing, and everybody else has kind of done their own thing, so it's nice to see quite a big studio like Ubisoft trying to get a working relationship, and they have. And they're sowing the seeds for wonderful things. It starts off small, but it blossoms into great, great, great future prospects. So I really hope that, you know, in 10 years' time, Ubisoft are the same tier of Nintendo. Can you imagine if they had that Nintendo quality? Or Nintendo's innovation? That'd be sweet. But there was a lot of Shigeru Miyamoto dick-sucking, which is completely needed, because if you've never heard of him, guy's kind of a big deal. And I don't really know what his purpose of being there was, but they presented him with something, and it was nice to see him, because when I see Shigeru, it always makes me happy, because it reminds me of being a kid, and knowing that that super happy-looking Japanese dude was making these wonderful worlds for me to explore. That guy is godlike, and I like him a lot, so it was cool to see him. And then they showed Skull and Bones, which is like no man's Sea of Thieves. Completely vapid, uninteresting, and it was infinitely better in Assassin's Creed Black Flag. And then Elijah Wood came out, which we all remember that guy from such fantastic movies as... What was that green thing called? I don't remember the name of that shitty movie. Anyhow, Elijah Wood's been in movies. I didn't want to say the obvious one, but I forgot the... Because it's like a football hooligan one, isn't it? It's not Football Factory. It's like the fuck... It's not The Green Mile, because that was a completely different movie. Bunch of football hooligans get a nice supernatural experience with John Coffey. No, that's not how that worked. It's green something, you know what I meant. Anyhow, Elijah Wood is Frodo, for God's sake. He came out and said he does things in his spare time, don't we all? And then he showed this weird VR, like, thing where this dad was being a bad dad, and I had no idea what was going on. It was confusing. It looks great. I'm not playing it. And then they showed something called Starlink Battle for Atlas, which sounds about as interesting as I just read there. Yeah, it looks like a flying thing. It looks like it might actually have a game in it, but I'm not playing it. And then they showed For Honor stuff, but they didn't have the dude with the cane, the guy who looks like a badass and is probably going to be a sex offender in like 20 years. I hope not. But they're doing DLC for Honor, and they're supporting it a ton, because there's like 200 people that still play it and they really like it, and that's awesome. And that 200 people's probably closer to about 3,000, I think they said. And there's a documentary on it and everything, and it's one of the... I think it's Ubisoft's way of saying that they're going to commit to their titles, even if they don't have, you know, stratospheric immediate performances, which is cool, because I think For Honor looks really, really cool. And then they showed The Crew 2, which, much like The Crew 1, elicited the same response from me. And then they ended with Assassin's Creed, and this is where me and Ubisoft have once again grown apart. We had a good run, but I just can't get behind them anymore. There were good games in this presentation. Like, a lot of them have a decent level of quality. Like, I don't think there was anything that they showed that isn't a good game in someone's eyes, right? They're all competent video games. The thing that jumped out most to me was the potential of something like Beyond Good and Evil, because it sounds like the narrative might be really, really interesting. But Assassin's Creed, right? I might be alone when I say this, but I hate Assassin's Creed. I really do. And I know I hate a lot of things, and hate is one of those discussions on my channel that happens a lot, because I'm hyperbolic, so I use the term hate when I don't even mean it. I use it for the slightest, most silliest of things, which a lot of people get. Some people don't. Some people are very literal, and it leads to some hilarious comments. No doubt in this video there will be some hilarious comments when people take something I say seriously. Such is life. But Assassin's Creed, the first game wasn't very good. That's the reality, guys. It was a great concept, but it was a repetitive, mechanically less than stellar title with some wonderful technology. Assassin's Creed 2 fixed all of that. One of the greatest games in the franchise in that era. It was phenomenal what they did. They took this proof of concept that worked nowhere near as well as we wished it did, and they turned it into one of the biggest franchises that there is now. And then Assassin's Creed 3 came out after a bunch of bullshit in the middle, which I never really liked and never really wanted, but that bullshit in the middle was actually pretty good in retrospect, because it added a lot of interesting features that went on to sharpen the later entries. 3 I didn't like because I wanted to learn about American history from it, and I learned that the majority of America's history is fucking boring, or at least that's what that game taught me, and I don't think American history is boring, I just think that game was boring, and that's a problem. And then Assassin's Creed Black Flag I thought was brilliant. I thought it was a wonderful divergence from this super sour, serious, mundane garbage of frontiers and homesteads to Pirates of the Caribbean, and all kinds of fun stuff with that. And then of course Unity came out, which I didn't actually think was that bad of a game once I played it after a million patches about 3 years later. It was a very ambitious title with some cool stuff, and I think Unity gets a bad rap. I don't think it's the worst by any means. It just of course had problems. And then Syndicate came out, and I thought Syndicate was solid too. They gave us a bit of a break though, didn't they, at the end of Unity, I think. And then when Syndicate came out, I think it made it a little bit more special. And then once again they went on a hiatus, another brief hiatus, and we didn't see Assassin's Creed for that year. And then they came back with this most recent one, Assassin's Creed Origins, and everybody's having a good time with it because it's fresh, it's new, it's different, it's changed a lot of expectations, and they've come out with something and they've left it long enough so that people want it again. The last thing they should have done is announce another fucking Assassin's Creed. They should just leave it, because right now people will gobble that shit up, and that's what they want. But it's not the best for the franchise, it's not the best for the longevity of this series, because they can get another cheap Assassin's Creed out just on the goodwill that they've earned from this most recent one rekindling people's spirits, but after that they're fucked again. What they should have done, in my opinion, it might not be the most financially or beneficial business-wise, which is why they didn't do this, but if they'd not announced another one and gave us another year of nothing, and then released this, I think the impact would have been much like what Origins was. And instead of that garbage, homogeneous, proliferated, manufactured nonsense of every 12 bloody months we get a new one of these things with a different haircut and extra super fantastic grass technology, we get something worthwhile and we're given the space needed to appreciate it. And I just don't understand, and you might just be saying, well Chris, you're obviously just a hater, you don't like Assassin's Creed and this is that hate talking. Well, do you know who does like Assassin's Creed? My best friend, and he really liked Assassin's Creed Odyssey. He doesn't think that this is a good idea. He watched this, and judging from the conversations that I've read, he's not interested in it. And he mirrors a lot of my sentiments. And he's a hardcore guy for that type of shit. And still, it seems like this is a misstep. Going from Egypt to Greece is so similar too. And it's funny because I would have loved a Grecian Assassin's Creed, because I think Greece has got some wonderful stuff to it, but I think at the time, I think the timing is all off here, guys. I really do. And I'm probably gonna, you know, be proven wrong, and it's gonna be massive and everyone's gonna love it, and maybe I'll even eat my own words, which is always a fun experience. But I just don't know. To me it feels bad. To me, they fucked up. Like, I've been looking at Origins as quite a respectful property and being like, good for you, Ubisoft. You gave it some time, you came back from that drawing board, you rekindled, and boom, look at what you got. Impressive. But now, it's like, what are they doing? Did they give us that break so they could go full steam ahead back into that annual cycle of garbage until we get to the point where it's coming out of our assholes, our ears, and our nose? I don't want that. I want what Assassin's Creed was on these new consoles. Remember when Prince of Persia went for a few games, it was awesome, and then it vanished so that Assassin's Creed could be born? Prince of Persia died so that this shit factory could be a series. Now it's time for this bastard to die and something beautiful to rise from its ashes and establish itself and carry this legacy forward, which is fresh and new and unique. But we're in an era of gaming where no one gives a fuck about new games and they'd rather buy this shit. And thus, we won't get the Assassin's Creed of this next generation. We'll just get more Ubisoft garbage, basically. Everything looks the same, everything has the same mechanics so that when you play it you feel like you already know it. And it's sad, it's really sad, and I hate to say it because it sounds like I'm trying to just bully the poor French Canadians, but fuck them, they're French, right? But what did you guys think? I'm sure that there's a lot in here to like, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that are really stoked, but for me personally, Ubisoft was probably one of the worst press conferences because there was almost nothing in it that I wanted. I don't think it was bad, because I think that everything they showed is going to be a solid, well-performing game, but none of it sparks passion, or love, or joy. To me, it's just Ubisoft spreadsheets, and that's not enough. But thank you for watching, and you take care now.